Ric, talk to us first and foremost, why take this particular route to going public? Why this special purpose acquisition company and the summer of SPAC, as we're calling it?
I like that, summer of SPAC. Well, it's a pleasure to meet you, Caroline, Taylor, and Romaine. I think it is definitely a different route to going public, but a very legitimate one, and one that's in vogue. About a third of the IPOs in the past year have been this way. You have increasing comfort in the technology community to use this approach to going public, and Bill Gurley wrote a great article about it this weekend. There's also direct listings, which is what Spotify and Slack did, and of course the traditional IPO approach, which I've done once. In a pandemic, this is probably there's some benefits to doing it this way.
Yeah, and you mentioned here, Ric, you mentioned the Bill Gurley piece, who's actually talked a lot about this. I think it's interesting because, you guys made it to unicorn status. A lot of the SPACs that we've seen, a little bit more leverage to sort of circumvent the traditional IPO process. I'm curious as to what you think that you as a company got out of it with regards to using that route rather than actually raising funds through an IPO.
We did raise funds, but through a PIPE, in addition to the cash in trust for the SPAC, so about $575 million in net proceeds. What's happened is the quality of the SPAC sponsors has increased dramatically. We partnered with Leo Hendry, which is a legend in manufacturing and operating world, and I'm sorry, not manufacturing, legend in the investing and operating world. And he's a fantastic partner, very experienced operator. And I think in the past you didn't have the same quality of people involved with SPACs, but that has definitely changed over the past 3 to 4 years, and I think you're going to see more of this in the future.
How are you planning to use the $575 million in gross proceeds that you mentioned wisely?
Yeah, I think we're going to accelerate growth in our business, and we're in an industry that's been compounding 20% for the past decade, and over the last 3 years, that's accelerated to about 25%, and it's projected to continue over the next 10 years. Which basically means our market's going from $12 billion last year to $146 billion by the end of the decade. So it's a seminal opportunity to really gain a leadership position, and particularly in the mass production side, which is where we're the leader of using this technology to scalably print parts. So, we're going to use the proceeds to accelerate growth, to answer your question, and also we'll look at constructive ways to consolidate the industry as well.
Ric, the numbers you talk of are pretty eye-watering, but I feel like 3D printing has been something we've been talking about for nigh on 5-10 years, and it's always almost about to be upon us and never quite reaches that point where we can see it, feel it, touch it, and to quite the extent that we thought we would. Do you feel like the supply chain issues, particularly COVID and the way that has disrupted companies, are you seeing a step change in the way that 3D printing is being adopted?
Absolutely. I think, if we look at the beginning of last decade, this was a tiny industry with, $1 or $2 billion total size. Right now, it's $12 billion at the end of this decade, and projected 146 by the 10 years from now. So I think you may not know this, but you have printed parts today in jet engines. You have printed parts in high-end vehicles and in other components. And what's really growing is the ability to take advantage of this technology for end-use parts that go into mass production and do it at a competitive price versus machining or casting or traditional approaches to making stuff. We've got $12 trillion worth of products that are made every day, and we tend to overestimate the short term and underestimate the long term. But if this continues to compound, I think we can create a durable compounding security here that's going to give investors as well as the market something that's very attractive.